The world discusses the prospects of the new vice presidential pick as we go along. Trump teases ending the payroll tax forever. Jerry Jones says the Cowboys will play in front of fans. And Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers uses his pardon power. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Sorry, we had a little bit of slow computer technical difficulties there for just a second there as I tried to make sure the live chat was up, open, and ready to receive messages from you guys here. Because it is important for me to read your messages here, but alas, we've got a fund going together right now to get a faster computer so we don't have to worry about this anymore. But we've got a bunch of stuff to get to today. I got a bunch of op-eds to start out with, talking about Kamala Harris and everything else that she's got going on in her life. And could she possibly be a moderate? Somebody actually suggested that out there. So we will talk a bit about that here. We'll talk a bit about some of the other news and the Cowboys and Wisconsin and all sorts of other important things. But before we get started, head on over to freedomscoop.com. freedomscoop.com is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Stephen Ignoramus came out and got another great interview up, and he's got the Daily Ignoramus going strong. We've got the Freckles and Brit Show, the Generational Gap. We've got the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, all episode coming up in the next couple days. So come on over and check them out. We also carry the R-Rated Conservative. So come on over and check all of us out over there. Pick up some of our swag, look at some of our backlogs, and help us support great creators like all of these gentlemen, some of whom I've hung out with before, and they are awesome. So come on over, head on over. We'd love to have you, we'd love to host you, and we'd love to see you. All right, before we get into news and opinion as well, we have got the stocks report, which shows that we had a decent day up on stocks, up 1%. We're not getting any of the big swings anymore, anything where they're busting the circuit breaker because they're swinging too far up or too far down, just to try and keep things from happening. But we are getting a little bit of up and a little bit of down. The S&P 500 was within reaching distance of yet another record. So we'll talk a bit about that here. But let's see what the investors have to say before we get into anything else. From IBD. Dow Jones today, futures backtrack as Cisco Systems dives, from Alan R. Elliott. Stock futures slumped on Thursday as overseas trade was generally weak, with the news wires were quiet with regard to coronavirus vaccine and stimulus. Tesla, Co-Diagnostics, and China's Futu Holdings jumped in pre-market trade. Lasermaker 2 to 4 set up, or 2 to 6 rather, set up for a possible breakout, and weak guidance sent Cisco Systems to the bottom of the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones today. Dow Jones futures dragged 0.2% lower. S&P 500 futures traded 0.3% below fair value. NASDAQ 100 futures downshifted 0.2% on the stock market today after hosting a healthy rebound among growth stocks on Wednesday. IBD leaderboard listing Tesla topped the NASDAQ 100 up 1.4%. Tesla stock rallied 13% Wednesday after it announced for a 5-for-1 stock split. Netherlands-based chip equipment maker ASML Holdings also traded high on the NASDAQ, up 1.2% in pre-market action. The IBD 50 stock is in a buy range on a rebound from its 10-week moving average. Tapestry jumped 2.6% on its quarter 4 results to lead the few rising issues on S&P 500. Co-Diagnostics was on the move again, up more than 7% early, ahead of its second quarter report due after today's closing bell. Co-Diagnostics was on the move again, up more than 7% early, ahead of its second quarter report due to after today's closing bell. IBD 50 stocks near buy points, Futu Genmab on the IBD 50 list. Futu Holdings jumped 3.4% after delivering its second quarter earnings. Shares had dropped narrowly back into buy range after breaking out from a high tight flag base on July 30th. The base's buy point is at 33.90. IBD 50 Biotech Genmab also reported results. The Denmark-based lab reports on a biannual basis. The stock is up almost 43% from an early May breakout. Shares ended Wednesday just below the follow on a 36.73 on a shelf pattern. Cisco Systems was the Dow's signal stock on Thursday, dropping 5.8% after adjusted fiscal fourth quarter earnings. And revenue topped analyst targets, but management's Q1 sales and earnings guidance came in well below expectations. Cisco stock ended Wednesday less than 1% below a 48.39 buy point in a 9-week flat base. Adhesives leader 3M was the early leader on the Dow Jones today, rising 1.4% after an update showed up 6% in July. July's 3M Healthcare unit rose 29%, consumer revenue rose 9%, whereas transportation and electronics revenue dropped 7%. Adhesives and coatings peer Nordson broke out from a 9-week flat base on Tuesday. It ended Wednesday in a buy range above the 203.77. So they're not going to give me a futures report on this one here, but it looks like the futures may be reaching in a good direction based on some of the stocks that we looked at for this. So we will see what comes out of this here. Now, from CNN, which I rarely use for stock news, but I decided to do today. S&P 500 just misses record high. From CNN Business. It happened again for the second day in a row. The S&P 500 fell just short of a fresh all-time closing high. The index closed up 1.4%, yet it was some 5 points below the February record of 33.85.15 it needed to beat. And so, the record watch continues. Stocks were in the green all day, rebounding from the prior day's losses. The Dow finished up 1.1% or 290 points, and the Nasdaq Composite closed 2.1% higher. And another addendum onto that. If the market closed right now, the S&P 500 would be at an all-time high. The S&P has hit the magic number of 33.85.15, meaning that if the market closed right now, the index would have set a new record high, its first since the pandemic hit in the United States. But we still have about 45 minutes left in the trading day. As of right now, the S&P is up 1.6%. If the index does not manage to finish at an all-time high, it would make the 2020 bear market. If it does manage to finish at an all-time high, it would make the 2020 bear market the shortest in history at only 1.1 months, according to the S&P Dow Jones Indices, Howard Silverblatt. It would also mean that it took Wall Street less than 5 months to go from nadir to a new record. Which means, yes, we are building an economy back up out of this. And, disclaimer, the economy is not the stock market, and the stock market is not the economy. But the Dow Jones is a very good reflection on what the economy is going to do in its next quarter. So as we sit back and watch this, we will sit back and see if we can pull back from the 37% drop in GDP that we just had as soon as we start opening things up. And we are going to see states that are going to try and keep things closed because they don't want people to see the economy rise. And they definitely don't want to see the stocks rise because in spite of the fact that, yes, the economy and the stocks are different, people can see a stock update every single day. Your GDP is only measured and reported on quarterly. So keep that in mind, what they're going to do and what people are going to see on a day-to-day basis as we move along, versus what we aren't going to see until October. So, some things to think about as we go along here. Alright, let's read some of these op-eds that I have right at the beginning, starting from the New York Post. We're going to actually look at the news before we get into the op-eds from the New York Post. Joe Biden VP pick Kamala Harris makes first public appearance as running mates. From Ebony Bowden. Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris made their first public appearance as running mates on Wednesday at an event in Delaware where they bashed the Trump administration and promised to restore the nation to greatness without unveiling a clear platform of their own. The Democratic presidential nominee formally introduced his vice presidential running mate in front of a small group of socially distanced reporters assembled inside a public school gymnasium in Wilmington and said Harris would fight for America's working people. And once again, Joe Biden is not going to leave Delaware. I have no doubt that I've picked the right person to join me as the next president of the United States of America, Biden said, also praising the other female candidates he ultimately passed on. Kamala, as you know, she's smart, she's funny, she's tough, she's experienced, she smells good. She's a freedom-proven fighter from the backbone of this country, the middle class, he said. Harris and Biden made sweeping promises to create millions of jobs, tackle climate change, build an Affordable Care Act, and protect reproductive rights. But the pair failed to address any foreign policy issues, including an escalating Cold War with China, and did not offer any specific solutions to the coronavirus crisis. Well, the biggest solution to the coronavirus crisis is going to be once the election is over, and the United States is no longer trying to unseat an unpopular president. Harris, touting her prosecutorial experience, which is probably something you should be hiding at this point, as deep as you can get it hidden, claimed that the case against Donald Trump and Mike Pence is open and shut. Just look where they've got us. More than 16 million out of work. Well, that was because Michigan, California, and New York all told people not to go to work. Millions of kids who cannot go back to school. Crisis of poverty, homelessness, inflicting black, brown, and indigenous peoples the most, she said. Biden, noting the attacks Trump has began lobbying his new running mate, suggested he was afraid of strong women. Yeah, that's been a tired old fucking trope since they got head-to-head with Hillary. Is anyone surprised that Donald Trump has a problem with strong women or strong women across the board? Harris traveled to Wilmington from Washington, D.C. on Wednesday morning after being named as Biden's running mate on Tuesday, ending months of speculation. A modest crowd of supporters in masks gathered around outside in the rain and held signs which read Biden for President and Biden-Harris 2020. One lone protester could be seen holding a sign that said Joe Biden equals abortion, euthanasia, and infanticide. The senator from California makes history as the first woman of color and the first woman of Indian descent to be nominated for the national office of the major party ticket. So yes, Joe Biden is still not going to leave Delaware. He had a small crowd inside of a high school gym. You know that this wouldn't have been the same thing for Trump, where he would have probably packed a stadium even among COVID-19 cases, but I digress on that here. And yes, now the attacks are coming out. He's afraid of a strong woman. That's why he's doing it. That's why I'm picking a woman, because he's afraid of a strong woman. And I'm going to use my prosecutorial experience to indict him and everybody who would vote for the treasonous bastard, because they're all treasonous too. Yeah, give me a fucking break, people. Alright, let's keep going. From Newsweek. Some questions for Kamala Harris about eligibility. Opinion. From John C. Eastman. The fact that Senator Kamala Harris has just been named vice presidential running mate for the presumptive Democratic nominee has some questioning her eligibility for the position. The 12th Amendment provides that no person constitutionally eligible to the office of the president shall be eligible to that of the vice president of the United States. And Article 2 of the Constitution that specifies that no person except a natural-born citizen shall be eligible for the office of the president. Her father was, and is, a Jamaican national. Her mother was from India, and neither was a naturalized U.S. citizen at the time of Harris's birth in 1964. That, according to these commentators, makes her not a natural-born citizen and therefore ineligible for the office of the president and hence ineligible for the office of the vice president. Nonsense, runs the counter-commentary. Indeed, PolitiFact rated the claim of ineligibility as pants on fire false. Snopes rated it false, and from the other side of the political spectrum, Conservative Daily News likewise rated it false. All three, and numerous others, simply assert that Harris is eligible because she was born in Oakland and therefore is a natural-born citizen from location of birth. The 14th Amendment says so, they all claim, and the Supreme Court said so, or so held rather, in the 1898 case of U.S. versus Wong Kim Ark. So yes, they're going to go out and try to run birtherism, and Yes, I mean, if she was born in Oakland, there's no problem off of this, no matter who the parents were. Unless for whatever reason the 14th gets repealed. And even then, I believe she'd be grandfathered in. So there's no case out of here, but yes, people are doing everything they can in the stupidest way possible to try and prevent Kamala Harris from becoming the vice president. Why? I don't know. It's birtherism all over again, but there's actually not a case on this one. There wasn't a case the first time. But they're going to run out and do this again. They're going to try and figure this out again, and I would not doubt it in the least if this was a plant from the other side as well. Because I don't trust a word that any of these people are doing, and they're going to try and paint the Trump administration in the worst possible way that they can, including his voters. If you voted for Trump the first time, you are the enemy of people that are on the left. Even if you plan to change because you couldn't stand Trump anymore, unless you're in the fucking Lincoln Project, because, well, they paid a lot of money to us and they're making free advertisements for us. Yeah, that's what we've got seeing here. So that's going to be the first one here. Let's keep going. I've got one here, a tweet from my wonderful co-host. If my computer ever catches up here. Libertarian Redhead 1, Libertarian 1 over on Twitter, tweets out, I have receipts at Sean King. With a picture here that we'll take a look at. First tweet, no date given unfortunately, says, my friend Jamal Trulove was framed for murder by Kamala Harris when she was district attorney of San Francisco. He was sentenced for 50 years to life in prison for a crime he had nothing to do with. Spent 7 years in prison before he was exonerated. And yes, he called out Kamala Harris by name. But this one here from August 11th, 2020, 2 days ago, says, that's it for me. I'm incredibly proud to see a brilliant black woman, an HBCU grad, chosen as vice presidential nominee. I've done political work my whole life. It's rarely things dreams are made of. Kamala Harris is the most progressive VP nominee in American history. So Sean King is out here changing his tone. Left and right. Figure you guys would be interested to see that and possibly come up and comment on that one here. We're going to keep going off of this one though. And the next one here I archived up from the Washington Post. And this is the one that I decided I wanted to title the episode on as well because I thought it was funny. I figured you guys would think it was funny. We need a laugh in the morning. We actually need to have a laugh and enjoy life and enjoy things as well. So, let's see. Harris is a small C conservative, party-friendly pick, which makes her just right for Biden. That's right, it does say small C conservative. Harris is a small C conservative. Let's see what David Byler has to say. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden is an intensely risk-averse politician. In his nearly 50 years in public life, he has always positioned himself in the middle of the Democratic Party. Not too far right or not too far left. He spent roughly a decade and a half in the Senate, making connections and deepening his understanding of politics before trying to run for president the first time. And in the 2020 primary, he refused to advocate for Medicare for all, support reparations for slavery, or take other stances that could damage him in the general election. In his vice presidential search, Biden again took the safe route. Senator Kamala Harris is his newly announced running mate, is a historic choice as a black and Asian American woman. But she's also a small C conservative pick. Harris isn't apt to cause any problems for Biden on this campaign trail, and her presence on the ticket will preemptively smooth over Democratic concerns, bringing both relative youth and diversity important to a party increasingly reliant on people of color. Harris might not add many voters to the campaign trail, but she'll help Biden run out the clock. And that's exactly what he needs to do. Right now, Biden is running the campaign equivalent of a prevent-defense strategy in football. He's not dominating the news cycle. No, he's hiding in his basement. And he doesn't need to. Every day that President Trump wastes on a bizarre tweet or bad news conference is one that Biden wins. Harris is a good pick because she won't disrupt that pattern. The national media already knows who she is and vetted her during the 2020 presidential primary. She has also shown that she's a talented speaker and she'll likely perform well on the campaign trail and in her debate with Vice President Pence. Oh, he's waiting for that one too. I saw numerous things out there that said that Yeah, I will see you coming up here in September. She's not the most moderate pick available to Biden, but the inevitable socialist attack won't work quite well, or as well, as it would with someone like Senator Elizabeth Warren. Trump tried this approach after the announcement Tuesday, labeling Harris just about the most liberal person in the U.S. Senate, and observing, I would have thought that Biden would have tried to stay away from that a little bit. But it's going to be hard to make that stick. Harris is far less liberal than Warren or Senator Bernie Sanders. In short, there's no reason Harris would spoil Biden's 8-point lead over Trump, and that's a big point in her favor. Never mind the fact that she is on the record saying she wants to prosecute people who voted for Trump, and she has a long prosecutorial record of laughing about smoking a joint, while a few years later putting people in prison for smoking a joint or simple possession in long extended prison sentences. Harris also helps Biden preemptively solve some of his demographic problems. Biden is 77, and if he wins the election, he'll be the oldest president to take the office. If he had picked a running mate also in her 70s, as is Warren, he would have spent much of the campaign and his early days in office fending off questions about the collective ticket's age and any health problems that they might develop. But Harris is squarely in her 50s, which is, according to the plurality of Democrats, the ideal age of a president. Yeah, they're not even hiding the fucking ticket anymore here. Yes, the vice president is going to be nominated or become the nominated president. They're not going to vote for the presidency, and nobody wanted Harris to begin with. That's something you need to remind people as you're going through your daily life, that nobody wanted Harris as the president. She polled at 2%, and they're going to try and jam her in there anyway. Or they're just using this as an excuse to try and get her out of politics entirely. But that's what we're seeing up off of this here. This is a very interesting op-ed off of this. Harris is a small C conservative. I laughed at that the first time I saw that. And yes, like I said, I thought that you guys might have a laugh at it too. All right, let's keep going here from the New York Post. Kamala Harris believed Joe Biden's accusers until she didn't, from Bethany Mandel. Also an opinion piece, by the way. By the standard of her own ample public record, Kamala Harris has just joined the presidential campaign of a serial sexual abuser, Joe Biden. It was during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings that we first learned that Harris harbors serious presidential aspirations. Her cross-examination of the future justice went viral, prompting Politico to speculate Kamala Harris rides Kavanaugh rage in a likely 2020 bid. Yeah, we all saw that one coming. She later explained that her hardline position in the Atlantic magazine interview, sexual assault, she said, is an issue right now that is where the issue of domestic violence was about 30 years ago. There was a perception about domestic violence, what happens in the king's castle is the king's business. That's private business, that's not our business. But then we evolved as a society. I believe this is an inflection moment on the issue of sexual assault. The explicitly stated assumption behind all this was that the allegations against Kavanaugh, spurious, unproven, and uncorroborated though that they were, had to be believed because women had made them. Harris beefed up her #MeToo credentials later, making it clear she doesn't believe women accusing Republicans, or she doesn't just believe women accusing Republicans of sexual assault. All women had to be believed, including those who accused prominent Democrats. At a campaign event in Nevada in April 2019, Harris discussed the allegations against Biden, declaring of the accusers, I believe them, I respect them being able to tell their story, and having the courage to do it. So Biden is an abuser because women have accused him, and all women should be believed, right? No, I thought that was a right-wing trap. And then I thought that a right-wing trap was Blair White. So what has changed since then? Sexual assault and harassment are some of the most serious allegations that can be leveled against a man. Harris now needs an account for why she's comfortable joining the abuser's 2020 ticket. This isn't some debate stage policy disagreement she can just walk back, claiming she has evolved. There are only two possibilities. One is that Harris didn't in fact believe Biden's accusers, but she claimed she did to score political points against him. If so, she used the very serious issue of sexual assault as a cheap political cudgel. The other possibility is that she still believes the ex-Veep's accusers, but is comfortable teaming up with an abuser, not to mention a racist, another charged accusation Harris has thrown Biden's way. After Harris ended her own bid and Biden emerged as the presumptive nominee, she began subtly backtracking. Asked on a podcast this April about former Senate aide Tara Reade's accusation against Biden, Harris stated that Reade has a right to tell her story. Even so, the Joe Biden I know is someone who really has fought for women and empowerment of women. Harris added that she would be honored to serve with Joe. So yes, we're seeing a lot of political convenience come out of this. A lot of stories changing just off the turn of a heel. It's a little bit disgusting the way that we see this off of this. And I don't even believe that she's doing it for political points or anything else off of this. I strongly believe that Harris strongly believes, that America strongly believes that Joe Biden is going to fucking croak after taking the inaugural address, probably in February or March, and that we are going to see Madam President, an appointed, nominated president that nobody in America liked, become the president. And Harris is just holding on, waiting for that oxygen to stop flowing. Everybody knows it at this point. You can't even go out and lie and say you don't believe it. Everybody knows at this point that Harris, if Joe Biden manages to get elected, Harris is going to be the president. So that's what we're seeing up off of this here. Let's keep going. From Fox News. AOC posts poem after told she'll get 1 minute to speak at the Democratic convention. From Dom Colicchio. Time, even as short as 1 minute, is what you make of it. U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appeared to be saying Wednesday evening. The New York Democrat reacted on Twitter to a report she'll get just 60 seconds to speak when she participates next week in the Democratic Party's mostly online national convention. Ocasio-Cortez quoted from God's Minute by the late civil rights leader Dr. Benjamin E. Mays, whose poem was a commentary on the brevity of life. I only have a minute, 60 seconds in it, forced upon me. I did not choose it, but I know that I must use it, the poem reads. Give account if I abuse it, suffer if I lose it, only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it, the Congresswoman concluded, retweeting a post containing a link to the Business Insider story. Some people reacting to Ocasio-Cortez's post accused the Democratic Party leadership of trying to stifle the Congresswoman, a progressive who supported the independent U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders for Vermont for president instead of the party's presumptive Democratic standard-bearer, former Vice President Joe Biden. Yes, she came out and said that she is going to nominate Bernie Sanders for all of this, and she wonders why they're only giving her 60 seconds to go out and talk. We talked about that yesterday. Oh no, that was hilarious. That was great. I love to see that. I love to see Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez get kicked around by the Democratic Party. What a slap to the progressive wing, one Twitter user wrote. It's a constant spite of us. They think that we will cower and peter out. Oh yes, please get louder, progressives. Please get louder. Please get louder. Please get louder. They are wrong. We ain't going anywhere with AOC as our leader. We're just getting started. Now the squad was reelected, and we're ready to rumble the halls of Congress. Other speakers should finish early and then say at the end of theirs that the remainder of their time is going to AOC, another wrote. Reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time. I give the rest of my time to the House of Representatives, the rightful speaker, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh my God, the jokes write themselves, people. Some noted that the brief allotment of time for Ocasio-Cortez came despite victories by her and other Squad allies, U.S. Representatives Rashida Tlaib of Michigan and Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, in their respective Democratic primaries. As they head toward general elections in November, the fourth member of the squad, U.S. Representative Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts, faces a primary election next month. You guys haven't had your primary yet? My mass people out in the chat? I know there's a couple of you right now. I thought you had your primary already. I guess not. Democratic establishment have no clue how many hardcore Democratic voters are abandoning them only because their ignorant left versus right mantra, a Twitter user wrote. The strategy which makes Trump win in 2016 is being dumped by the DNC. They're digging their own graves. One Twitter user noted that past convention speakers ignored the short amount of time they were granted. Bill Clinton was given 15 minutes in 1988, the user wrote. He spoke for 33 minutes and was booed off the stage. Obama spoke for 17 minutes, including stopping for applause 33 times. It wasn't even shown on a network TV. And he made us believe that we could change the world. I can't wait for AOC's 60 seconds. I can't wait for it either, you guys. Oh my God, I can't wait for it. This is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. All right, that's what I have on that one there. I can't keep reading this, otherwise I'm going to laugh for the rest of the morning. But we're going to save that for Monday. All right, going into some more election politics here. Trump vows to permanently end payroll tax in 2021 if he's reelected. From Ebony Bowden. President Trump on Wednesday vowed permanently to abolish the payroll tax at the beginning of 2021 if he's reelected on November. On the assumption I win, we're going to be terminating the payroll tax after the beginning of the new year, the president said during his nightly coronavirus briefing at the White House. But the tax, which raises approximately $100 billion a month, funds Social Security and Medicare, and the act would require support from Congress. Yeah, fact check. And spoiler alert, he's not going to end that tax because Congress is not going to let that happen because they are skimming way too much money off Social Security to let it go up the window. They're borrowing money against Social Security that they're going to pay back, and they can't let the fund go dry. Trump signed a slate of executive orders over the weekend designed to invigorate the economy, including a 4-month payroll tax holiday. The move applies to workers who earn less than $104,000 in 2020 and, depending on a person's wages, could save them several $100s each month. On Sunday, Trump promised the move would not negatively impact Social Security. The move would only defer payroll tax payments from September to December, not forgive them, meaning that they would be due in January. But in an interview with Fox News' Chris Wallace over the weekend, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said the president would push through legislation to make sure the taxes are forgiven, creating a payroll tax cut. Yeah, and that's something I've been saying right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, I've been saying that yes, he can stop the payroll tax, stop it from coming on your paycheck throughout the day, but it's still going to be there. The IRS and Congress is still going to want their motherfucking money, and they're not going to let it go. They're not going to let it go without a fight. So yes, people who normally get this massive, massive refund at the end of the year because they've been out saying that they've got 12 kids when they've only got 6 and fighting up the system, and they get 30 grand back in taxes after they paid 27 grand in. Yeah, those people are going to be in for a rude fucking awakening in January. I can tell you that. Why didn't I get? They must have raised my taxes. Why didn't I get so much of a return? Because nobody knows how taxes work. How taxes coming out of your paycheck work. Nobody knows. But as we remember from Beauty and the Beta 2 years ago, when Matt paid the taxes on the business, and he got his personal Me Too moment from the IRS, he pointed out, and I think he's absolutely correct on this, if everybody had to pay the check in at the end of every year, if you didn't get your taxes taken out of your paycheck every week and you had to pay in at the end of every year and saw exactly how much you were paying in taxes, you'd see the tax code change pretty fucking quick. So maybe there's some 4D chess going on along with this. All right. So that is that here. I can finally get through this one and stop the autoplay that's coming through my headphones over here. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the microphone or not. But let's see what we've got out of this here from WUSA 9 out of, I think it's out of D.C. It's a local station either way. Trump says Democrats holding Americans hostage as no new virus aid in sight. From Tegna out of the Associated Press. I don't know who Tegna is, but in his press conference at the White House Wednesday afternoon, President Donald Trump hit a wide range of topics, from COVID-19 to the economy, as well as attacking Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Democrats. Trump earlier Wednesday repeated his call to reopen the nation's schools, and he again pressed Congress to steer future coronavirus funding away from schools that do not reopen this fall. He made the remarks at a White House discussion with parents, teachers, and doctors, who said they support a full return to the classroom. Also joining Trump were Education Secretary Betsy DeVos and Vice President Mike Pence, who said the health risks tied to keeping children at home are greater than those associated with the virus. Most of the nation's largest school districts are planning to start the year with remote instruction as virus cases continue to rise. As Congress negotiates a new round of virus relief, Trump has said school funding should go to parents if their local schools do not reopen for in-person instruction. He said Wednesday that he wants money to follow students, while Democrats want to follow unions. DeVos, a longtime proponent of school choice, added her support for Trump's proposal. She says families need options that are going to work for the child and their child's education. Americans counting on emergency coronavirus aid from Washington may have to wait until fall. Negotiations over a new virus relief package have all but ended, with the White House and congressional leaders far apart on the size, scope, and approach for shoring up households and reopening schools and launching a national strategy to contain the virus. Trump's top negotiator, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, tried to revive stalled talks Wednesday, but House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer dismissed the overture, saying the Trump administration is still refusing to meet them halfway. Congressional Republicans are largely sitting out the talks. So, and I've got another article on this here from the Daily Wire, so I'm not going to go into Nancy's comments just yet off of this one, but, I mean, she's doing exactly what she did on the government shutdown. They are holding the American people hostage to try and shore up votes coming for November. They don't care who lives and dies, who goes broke, who has to go on government assistance, who can't feed their family, who never goes back to work. They don't give a fuck about any of this. All they care about is making sure that they get power back in November. And it's disgusting. Alright, let's keep going off of this one here, and I'm going to shut this one down so that the autoplay video stops playing. Luckily, I've got your ears turned off over here on the OBS side, so you guys can't see it, or hear it rather. Alright, from the Daily Wire, Pelosi says Trump administration refusing to budge on relief measures. Mnuchin responds, from Eric Quintanar. Democratic and Republican leaders seemingly attempted to revive coronavirus relief package talks on Wednesday, a discussion that remained unfruitful and prompted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to characterize the nature of the meeting in such a way that Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said was not an accurate portrayal of what happened during the conversation. In a joint statement with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, the two Democratic leaders accused the Trump administration of failing to understand the nature of the problem and refusing to budge on the size and scope of the package. Democrats have compromised repeatedly. We made clear that the Trump administration that we're willing to come down to $1 trillion if they'll come up $1 trillion, said Pelosi and Schumer. That's not what you fucking said last week. We have again made clear to the administration that we're willing to resume negotiations once they start to take the process seriously. The lives and livelihoods of all the American people, as well as the life of our democracy, are at stake, said the duo. Mnuchin fired back with his own statement, which he concluded that the Democrats weren't interested in pursuing negotiations on a package. Earlier today, Speaker Pelosi and I spoke by phone. Her statement is not an accurate reflection of our conversation. She made clear she was unwilling to meet to continue negotiations unless we agreed to advance to her proposal, costing at least $2 trillion, said the Treasury Secretary. The administration is willing to move forward with legislation that allows for substantial funds for schools, childcare, food, vaccine, hospitals, PPP for small businesses, rental assistance, broadband, airports, state and local government assistance, and liability protection for universities, schools, and businesses, he said. The renewed attempt at legislation comes after President Trump took 4 executive actions over the weekend, one of which would help to extend the unemployment insurance boost, which expired on July 31st at $400 per week and 75% federal funding. The remaining funds would need to be provided by the individual states. So yes, Nancy Pelosi is 100% holding the American people hostage. And the other thing that they don't report on this in mainstream news is the fact that there is legislation in the Democratic proposal to eliminate signature requirements for ballots, to expand mail-in ballots. 2 things, by the way, that are unconstitutional for Congress to tackle. And all sorts of other all sorts of other pet projects to come out here. If you eliminate the pet projects, maybe people will fucking talk. But right now, it's all just pet project, pet project, pet project. Okay, I'm not going to try and keep saying that fast. I'm sorry. But that's what we're seeing up off of this. So, Pelosi can come out and lie through her teeth, which she's been doing for 1,000 years in Congress. And the mainstream media will give her a pass for it. Alright, let's keep going here. From Florida, because we have some Florida men in the chat, as we always do. DeSantis says stale COVID-19 data included in Department of Health daily report. From Fox 13 out of Tampa Bay. No author given. Governor Ron DeSantis on Wednesday warned policymakers about problems with COVID-19 data collected and published by the state and said he directed the Department of Health to remedy the issue. During an early evening televised address, DeSantis did not offer details about what he directed the health department to do, but he made the comments after the reported number of COVID-19 cases in Miami-Dade County jumped by 4141 on Wednesday. The Florida Department of Health in Twitter posts blamed the spike in Miami-Dade and Nizhnik LabCorp, submitting the backlog of test results to the state. Was this a sudden surge in new infections? There we go. No, as it turns out, it was just a data dump from a new private lab that included results from as far back as June. The data was stale. It's not indicative of current trends, much less a record day of fresh infections in Miami, DeSantis said. Stale test results shouldn't be used by policymakers to determine the way forward for students, parents, workers, and businesses in the here and now. I've instructed the Department of Health to remedy this. The point of collecting data should be to illuminate, not obscure, the actual facts on the ground, and I expect that to be fixed very shortly. Before making the comments, DeSantis had 2 telephone calls with the Department of Health Secretary Scott Ripkeys. According to the governor's schedule, one was a call at 10 a.m. The other call, which included the Agency for Healthcare Administration Secretary Mary Mayhew, occurred at noon. In a statewide phone call with hospitals officials Tuesday, Ripkeys reminded hospitals and other providers to report test results, both positive and negative, to the state daily. And it appears that he made other comments. Oh yeah, just off of this one here. A quote from the press conference here, just as the SEALs surmounted obstacles to bring Osama bin Laden to justice, so too will the Martin County school system find a way to provide parents with a meaningful choice of in-person instruction or continued distance learning. Yeah, I don't know that I would have made that comparison. That was kind of cringe. To the point of cringe to the extreme from DeSantis. Yes, the teachers that want to go back in and do their job in the midst of a pandemic that all of the news media is telling you to completely panic about and is going to kill 95% of the world's population. Yes, it takes some courage to go back into public instruction, but I mean, you signed up for the job, and flu season is generally even worse, and worse for children than it is from what we're seeing off of everything else off of this here. But people have the ability to assess their own personal risk level, rather than having a government do it for them. All right. So that's what we see off of this here. A little bit of sports news here from CBS Sports. Jerry Jones, Cowboys will play in front of fans in 2020. Will possibly use a pod formula at AT&T Stadium. And I have something up here about that pod formula, possibly a little bit later on. From Patrick Walker. If you're hoping to watch the Dallas Cowboys game in person this coming season, you'll get your chance, albeit a limited one. The team is currently forced to shave the capacity at AT&T Stadium from its normal operating standard to a maximum of 50%, as currently required by Texas Governor Greg Abbott during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. But they've also already taken a dramatic step of canceling season tickets for 2020. But while some teams are waving off having fans in attendance whatsoever, owner Jerry Jones made it clear that the Cowboys will do no such thing. The Dallas Cowboys plan on playing football, and we plan on playing in front of our fans, he told media in the club's first training camp press conference. I think it's important. I think it's important individually. I think it's important for the country. The NFL can be an inspirational part of how we address COVID-19, not only this year, but how we go into 2021. The question then becomes how many will be allowed into AT&T Stadium, an arena that routinely houses more than 100,000 fans on any given game day. I don't have an expectation, said Jones. We're dealing with a moving target. I won't speculate on the number. The Hall of Fame owner will lean heavily on what he views as a unique ability of the stadium to help facilitate social distancing, pointing at its very layout as it pertains to fan entrances to support this point, specifically how those entering from one side don't have to have any contact with ones filing in from another. He also floated the idea of a pod formula, wherein a group of no more than 15 individuals could be seated in various areas, as a creative way of allowing fans to attend while still adhering to the very stringent NFL policies regarding COVID-19. We'll adhere to all protocols, Jones said. We will adapt them to the uniqueness of our stadium. He was not shy when it came to the angle of liability, though, seeing as anyone who walks through the doors are inherently choosing to risk contracting the novel coronavirus. Jones is confident all fans permitted to attend will do the right thing, however, which involves sticking to protocol that prevent the spread of the disease. Yeah, there are a couple things that are going along with this, and like I just said in the last article, people have the ability to assess their own risk level. They know what's safe for them. They know what's not safe for them. I mean, going outside any given day, you could be hit by a Buick, but you still go outside every day. We still drive cars. You know what the acceptable level of risk for you. It's higher for some people, and it's lower for some people. It's an individual thing. You can make your own choices. Now, I will not be attending any football games because I've told the NFL this year to pound sand with all of their social justice bullshit. But it's an interesting idea, the fact that Jerry Jones wants people back in the stands. He wants to be that guiding light outside of politics. What football was supposed to be, a way to step away from the politics, the mundanity of our day-to-day lives, to get away from work and just go out and enjoy a Sunday. So good on Jerry Jones. That might actually change my mind on this. Not likely right now, but that actually might change my mind on the NFL for the year. All right, let's keep going here. From my home state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin State Agency requires employees to wear masks while teleconferencing. From Justine Coleman. Yeah, I got this from the RRC show last night. And yes, this is right in my backyard. A Wisconsin state agency has required employees to wear masks while teleconferencing from home, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reported. A July 31st email sent to employees by the state's Department of Natural Resources reportedly reminded them that Governor Evers' mask mandate went into effect the next day. Natural Resources Secretary Preston Cole said in an email that the staff has to wear masks in DNR buildings and in virtual meetings, according to the Journal-Sentinel. Also, wear your mask even if you're home to participate in virtual meeting that involves being seen, such as on Zoom or another video conferencing platform, by non-DNR staff, Cole reportedly wrote. Set the example, which shows that you, as a DNR public service employee, care about the safety and health of others. The governor's mask order requires face coverings to be worn in an indoor public spaces and does not include residencies. Health experts say people should wear masks in their homes if they're living with people who are susceptible to serious illness. Once again, assess your own fucking risk factor from the coronavirus, but otherwise they say there isn't much need to. DNR spokesperson Megan Sheridan told McClatchy that the department wanted its employees to set an example for others by displaying their masks. Okay, and this is part of the reason that I don't work for the state. Like, I actually went to school to be a teacher. But no, I will not work for the state of Wisconsin. Because fuck you, you are not going to fucking tell me what I'm going to do inside of my own home. Fuck you. Not going to happen. But the DNR is trying to do so. The DNR can get sometimes a little bit fascistic in this state. Absolutely. All right, let's keep going here. This goes on to the pod setting that we were just talking about on the CBS story. Happening today, UK's first social distancing in large group setting. What do you think of this idea while attending a future huge public event? And we've got some video to go along with this. So, okay, maybe we don't because it doesn't look like this is going to play. There we go. Yes, this is their solution. And you know what I see when I see this? Grown-up fucking playpens. Adult playpens. This is exactly what this is. Hey, you notice those people aren't wearing masks either? Yeah, no. This is... I don't have words for this. I don't know. What do you guys think? All right, let's keep going. We're running up on the hour mark already here. From the New York Post, Chicago looters smash Ronald McDonald house with terrified sick kids inside. From Lee Brown. Before I even read a word of this article, I have 2 words for this. For those in Chicago, these are the 2 words that I have for you. Fucking disgusting. But let's see what Lee Brown has to say about this. Sick kids and their families cowered in fear inside a Chicago Ronald McDonald house as looters smashed the front door while trying to get inside this week, according to staff. The charity says more than 30 families, as well as some sick children with them, were left frightened by those who smashed windows as they ransacked the Windy City during Monday's chaotic crime spree. They very concerned. There was a lot of activity right in front of the house, people making choices that could put them at risk, put our families at risk. So the staff was frightened. Ronald McDonald House Charities, Lisa Mitchell told ABC7. They attacked property houses, family, so they and their children can be close to the Lurie Children's Hospital, which should be an easy and safe trip just 5 blocks away. They are already in a really, really difficult spot, and having this kind of additional stress and worry about getting to and from the hospital because of safety concerns is just doubling the strain, Mitchell said. Several windows were smashed and the front door had to be boarded up, but nobody was injured, the charity said. Mitchell told CBS Chicago that it was vital that the families get the rest they need while they have a child in the hospital seeking care. So it's important that anything that might be going on outside, we maintain our care for our families, she stressed. This is fucking outrageous. These assholes. Now, okay, if you want to go out and smash up the rest of Chicago, because you're mad that one of your brethren shot at a cop and wound up getting injured because of it and walked away with his fucking life. Smash up the rest of Chicago, but leave the fucking children's charities alone, you... Oh! Disgusting. Absolutely. Anyway, that's what I'm seeing off of this one here. All right, we got one here from Fox News to go on to. Maybe if it'll scroll for me. There it goes. Bend, Oregon activists block ICE bus, prompting federal agents' response. From Bree Simpson. Federal agents in Bend, Oregon clashed with hundreds of protesters late Wednesday night after an hours-long standoff sparked by the arrest of 2 men by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers who said that they were a threat to the public. Bend's episode, which is about a 3-hour drive from Portland, was the latest in tensions among protesters, local police, and federal agents. I've never been so disgusted by my government and proud of my community, Deschutes County District Attorney John Hummel, who attended the protest, wrote on Twitter. The protest spanned hours as 2 unmarked ICE buses were blocked by protesters who apparently witnessed the arrests. Shortly before midnight, federal agents removed the 2 detained men from a bus and left the scene. The protesters also dispersed, according to an Oregon Public Broadcasting reporter. It appears federal agents have left the area, Bend police wrote on Twitter. The attendees of the First Amendment event appear to have dispersed peacefully. Bend police said it had been made aware of ICE agents were in the city conducting an investigation, but were not given details, the department said in a statement. The Bend police are not involved with ICE operations. The statement said, "We do not use funds or personnel or equipment to enforce federal immigration laws or detain people based on immigration status. We're on scene to allow free speech in a peaceful area to assemble and provide life safety support." Protest organizers asked participants not to vandalize the buses, and after one person rode on a bus, another person cleaned it off, according to an OPB reporter. A speaker also told protesters to take a knee when federal agents arrive instead of leaving. So, we actually saw a legitimate, peaceful protest. They got what they wanted. I don't know the details of what the arrests were. That would have been important to go along with this, but they got what they wanted. They were peaceful. Nobody got hurt. And like they said off of this, some jackass went too far and wrote something on the bus, and somebody else cleaned it off. This, in stark contrast to throwing IEDs at a federal building in downtown Portland. So, good on these protesters. I can't complain about this one. I can't. This is a good thing. All right. That's what we saw for this one here. Yeah, it's nice to see one that's actually peaceful at some point. Even if they are standing up here in riot gear for it. It's nice to see one that's actually peaceful. All right. Now I've got one here that my cousin brought to my attention over on Facebook here, and I wanted to get to. I didn't read this one in front because of my contention with Tony Evers. I wanted you guys to get the pure reaction to this. So let's see what Fox 6 Milwaukee has to say. Wisconsin governor pardons 9 people, raising the total to 56. Governor Tony Evers, from the Associated Press apparently. Governor Tony Evers has issued 9 more pardons, raising the total he's made since taking office to 56. Evers resumed granting pardons last year after his predecessor, Governor Scott Walker, didn't issue a single one over 8 years. A pardon doesn't erase or seal a conviction, but it does restore a variety of rights. Those include the ability to own a gun, vote, be on a jury, and hold public office. A pardon doesn't keep someone's criminal record from showing up on a background check, but applicants often say clemency makes them more attractive to employers. Governor Evers granted pardons to the following people according to a release from his office. So let's see what we have here. Jason Setzlock, now 41, was 18 when he and his friends stole a snowmobile from a dealership and took it joyriding. Setzlock is married with a daughter and has worked for Minhas Craft Brewery since 2005. He lives in Broadhead. Stephen Dummer was 17 when he and his friends stole a vehicle from an auto dealership and took it joyriding. Now 64, he has maintained employment since and hopes to travel to Canada to fish. He lives in Watertown. Corey Dusso was only 16 when he and a friend took his friend's mom's car joyriding after drinking. They fled when an officer attempted to pull them over and drove into a ditch. Now 38 years old, Dusso lives in La Crosse. Heather Hafman Biles was in her early 20s when she struggled with a drug addiction and drove the getaway vehicle, while her then-husband burglarized multiple residencies. She went through a treatment, is now sober, a mother of 3, and currently works at a chocolate factory. She lives in Johnson Creek. James Jarrett, now almost 50, was 17 when he stole alcohol from multiple establishments. He is now married, with children and grandchildren, and owns and operates a body shop as well as several rental properties. He lives in Soldiers Grove. Willie Patterson Jr. was in his early 20s when he stole from 2 employers. He went on to attend MATC, is married with children, and has the support of recent employers who vouch for his work ethic and honesty. He lives in Milwaukee. Danny Powers, now 66, was 18 when he was convicted of robbery. He is retired after a lifetime of consistent employment, most recently with the state of Minnesota for 15 years, and is married with 3 kids and a whole bunch of grandkids. With a pardon, he would like to be able to travel to Canada and visit his wife's family. He lives in Wadena, Minnesota. James Sherson sold marijuana to an undercover agent when he was 22 years old, now 56. He owns his own business, pumping septic tanks. He lives in West Salem. Corley Thielens, now 39 years old, was 20 when he committed a hit and run. He has since maintained employment and is part owner of a rental property. His career prospects would improve with a notary license, which he cannot obtain without a pardon. He lives in Green Bay. and we are going to say goodbye to Instagram. So head on over to the YouTube and you will get my reaction to all of this here, which is going to be surprisingly positive given what I see out of what I normally have to say about Evers. So we will see you over on the YouTube side. Take care. And as far as Tony Evers goes, this is a good thing. Everything off of this here, everything that I see off these 9 pardons is a good thing. We've all done really, really stupid stuff when we were young, and these 9 people have it hanging over them. And these people have actually reformed their lives. I mean, this is not, he's not issuing pardons to somebody who just committed a crime last week. These are 20, sometimes 30, 40 years later that some of these people are being pardoned from. This is good. This is a good thing. Now these people can go out and vote. They can get better jobs. These people, some of these people can travel to Canada, which they couldn't do until they were pardoned. The one guy wants to become a notary. These are people that are actually contributing to society. And yeah, the one guy sold weed to an undercover cop, which should be illegal in the first place. Yeah, no, this is all good. This is a good thing. Good on Tony Evers. I will call balls and strikes, and this is good on Tony Evers. This is great on Tony Evers. Think of everything you can open up for these people. Yes, they can come out and participate in the rest of society. They don't have anything up over their record anymore. I mean, what is this? We've got works at a chocolate factory, owns a body shop, owns a septic pumping system. These are good people. I mean, this one here, he stole a vehicle from an auto dealership and took it joyriding. He's now 64, which means at 17, that most likely took place in the early 70s. Yeah, no, let's take this off the record. Let's get these people more opportunities and more ability to do so. These are good people. These are absolutely good people. Good on Evers. All right. I got a couple more here. And then we will do a thing that I like and a thing that I hate, which are completely unprepared for. I might skip that today because I completely forgot to prepare that as we went along. All right, let's see. From the Times of Israel, IDF strikes Hamas site in Gaza after arson balloons spark fires in the south. So we already saw everything that happened with Beirut, what happened in Beirut, the explosion, and the government subsequently stepping down. And there are more explosions over on in the Middle East as well. From Judah Ari Gross, Israeli aircraft bombed a Hamas site in the northern Gaza Strip late Thursday night after terrorists in the enclave allegedly launched a number of balloons carrying suspected explosives and incendiary devices into Israel, the military said. The Israel Defense Force said the retaliatory strike targeted underground infrastructure belonging to the Hamas terror group in the northern Gaza Strip. The Hamas-linked Al-Rasala news site identified the site as the group's Palestine base outside Bet Laia. The attack was carried out in response to the launching of incendiary balloons from the territory of the Gaza Strip into Israeli territory. Throughout the day, the IDF said in a statement. Following the strikes, Defense Minister Benny Gantz warned Gaza-based terror groups against attacking Israel. The state of Israel won't accept any violation of its sovereignty or harm the residents of the South, Gantz wrote on Twitter. If the terror organizations still don't understand, however, whoever tests Israel will be hit hard. At least 3 brush fires were ignited in southern Israel on Thursday by balloons carrying incendiary devices that were launched from the Gaza Strip, the fire department said, sparking concern over a possible return of the phenomenon. Another balloon that carried a suspected explosive device was found near the city of Arad, some 80 kilometers from the coastal enclave. It was located by police and detonated in a controlled explosion, police said. So, yes, we're going to see more explosions and many more tensions going up over there. To be fair, the Middle East has not been at peace since Abraham was walking around. So you expect to see a little bit of this as we go along, but it is just part of life off of this. As long as we don't get yanked into even more of this, which is my biggest fear, every time I hear a story coming out of the Middle East, that the U.S. is going to get pulled in from one side or the other, as long as we don't do that, they can sit and fight with each other to our heart's content. until they turn their own continent into glass. And why would you fight on your own soil? I don't know, but they will continue. This is never going to stop. They're going to continue to go out and fight with each other until the end of time. All right, and then the last one that I have here. Former Congresswoman Katie Hill wants to see her husband prosecuted for cyber exploitation and is seeking redemption after her relationship with a campaign staffer. From Eliza Relman. Business Insider spoke with former Congresswoman Katie Hill on Tuesday about her resignation from Congress last fall, seeking redemption following her relationship with a campaign staffer. And her forthcoming political podcast, the 32-year-old Democrat, is out with a new book, She Will Rise, Becoming a Warrior in the Battle for True Equality, which is a part memoir, part feminist political manifesto. You resigned last fall after tabloids and right-wing media published nude photos of you with a campaign staffer. You allege that your ex-husband leaked the photos without your consent. After you left him, what convinced you to get back into the public arena, write this book, and launch a political action committee? She was fucking broke. Honestly, even when I was resigning, I felt this responsibility. All the people who worked on my campaign, who had believed in me, the decision to resign was hard enough, but I felt like if I were to totally disappear, I would be doing a disservice, that I would be letting them down even further. I decided I needed some time, but immediately thought I needed to get back into working on the mission that I thought was so important. Having the experience that I did brought into even sharper focus that it has to be around getting true equality for women. So the organization that I started, Her Time, is intended to help more women get into public office, especially the young women, women of color, people who are in these long shot kind of races, and to engage and mobilize young women as a voting group, and to fight the issues I will lay out in She Will Rise, which are the fundamental legislative issues that I think will bring us equality. But the bottom line is that we need to get more women into office. And I feel like me disappearing wouldn't help that, and in fact I might hurt it. There's so much fucking wrong with this. There's so much wrong with this. Let's keep in mind that Katie Hill resigned because she broke House ethics rules, because you're not supposed to bang your fucking staffers. And all of a sudden, conveniently, these nude photos of Katie Hill got leaked out in the world. And suddenly nobody was talking about the fact that she banged a fucking staffer. Something that would have had any male counterpart dragged out into the stocks and had tomatoes thrown at the dude. But they're going to continue going down this fucking line to come out and say, oh, well, you were forced to resign because your ex-husband leaked your nude. No, is not what fucking happened. Nancy Pelosi walked up behind Katie Hill, put her arm around her shoulder and says, you're going to get the fuck out of my Congress or I'm going to make your life a living hell. And I love this next question. I'm not going to read the next response to this, but I love this next question here. After your experience with cyber exploitation, you teamed up with some victims' rights attorneys to potentially sue the Daily Mail, which published some of the photos. What's the status of that legal work? Would you like to see your ex-husband criminally prosecuted under revenge porn laws? Her fucking ex-husband was in on this. He was in on this. 100% was in on this. So yes, everything in this article is bullshit. Full out bullshit. You know what? This is the thing I hate today. This article is full on bullshit. This is coming out and trying to bolster somebody to become a political lobbyist. Because that's what they do after they get kicked out of Congress. They're political lobbyists now. That's what my former representative, Paul Ryan, did now. He still owns his house in Janesville, but he moved down to D.C. to become a political lobbyist. And that's what she's doing. She's getting herself back up into the public eye to do so. And Business Insider is lying to let her have this. So yeah, you know what? That's the thing I hate today. Business Insider is canceled. All right, let's find something that I like today. Here's something that I like today. So, family is more important than the coronavirus, and it's something I've been stressing on as we go along from the first point that I went up to my parents' house to go and celebrate Mother's Day with my mom at the last minute on a whim decision, where they could have easily turned me out because of the coronavirus concerns. My parents are in their 60s. They could have very easily turned me out. And the rest of the family is actually coming into this. They will be having a gathering for my father's retirement coming up next weekend, which I will most likely be in attendance for. We have an Ed Talk that day, but it might actually have to be canceled because family comes first. And you guys understand. I know you guys do. That's the other thing I like, is the fact that you guys understand when I have family stuff going on. And I will be going to a graduation party for the other side of my family, my mom's side of the family, tomorrow. Or, not tomorrow, Saturday. I get off work and we'll be going down there and going out and seeing some family. My nephews will be there, and not an idea of coronavirus in sight, because it's not a monolith on how you deal with things. I know in California they come out and say, well, we'll shut your house down if you have a party, if you have a gathering of people, we'll shut your house down. Yet we don't do that here. There's like no cases in Wisconsin, no matter what Governor Evers tries to tell you. At our family, we spend time with each other. We are more important to each other than the coronavirus and the fear porn that the government tries to put out. That's the thing I like today. Family. My family and the way that we view each other. Not everybody's family gets to be that awesome with each other. But my family gets to, and I like that. And the thing that I hate today is this monstrosity of an abortion of an article that came from Business Insider that I will be passing along to Britt from the Freckles and Britt show, because that used to be her representative. And I would love to get her take on this one here. And that's going to be a show for the day. Tune in tomorrow here, where we will get the names of everybody who chatted throughout the week back into things. I will thank everybody who did that, including the people that didn't much care for me. I know I saw somebody in here a little bit earlier that was a little bit adversarial to the message that I was putting out. But everybody gets thanks for coming in here as well. So we will see you tomorrow with more news and more things to go with. Until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.